Last section,
So what's it?
11.6. I just said that. It's not going to be on Wednesday. Today we're going to finish the short little chapter. Tomorrow I'll give you a review to work on, which will cover everything that you need to know for the quiz. And then Wednesday will be the quiz. Okay?
When's the test?
Not for a while. Because after this we'll review some conics.
Oh yes, I'm at review some what?
Conic sections.
Wait, what's Swiss Comics? Isn't that reading?
You'll learn.
Oh, that's fine.
Never mind. Parabola.
All right, here we go.
What do you know?
So nonlinear systems, I mean, these are pretty straightforward. They're not hard. You would do what you normally would do. It's just you have to be careful because now not everything is linear. Okay? So sometimes you have a quadratic with a linear. Sometimes you have quadratic with quadratic, circles with ellipses. I mean, there's a whole bunch of options. So before we solve this, I mean, here's some scenarios. You could have a line and a parabola. You could have circle and parabola. You could have parabola with a parabola.
Is there one that starts with an H?
Hyperbola.
There you go. I don't like that one.
Okay, so I mean there's lots of different scenarios. You might have one answer, you might have two answers. You guys can kind of see here. How many answers would this this scenario have? So they have two solutions. This one would have four, so you have to be very careful with. And this one would have two. These are not the only scenarios you'll see, but just to give you an idea that it's not always one answer. You might have a few, or maybe even up to four. Okay. All right. So if we actually try to go ahead and solve this, what should you probably do to get going?
Plug in y.
Yeah, so 2x plus, and instead of y, we're going to plug in 4 minus x squared. So we're actually substituting. Set everything equal to 0. I'll put it on the right-hand side. So on the right it'll be positive x squared, subtract 2x, and if I subtract 4, you get minus 3. Which we can factor to what?
X minus 3x plus 1.
Okay. So we get two possible values for x. We get x equals 3 and negative 1. Okay, so working with both of these, you kind of do case by case. So if x equals 3, we're going to go ahead and take x equals 3 and plug it into the y equals 4 minus x squared equation and see what happens with y. So we get y equals 4 minus, what's 3 squared? So y is negative 5. The second scenario is if x is equal to negative 1, do the same thing. Plug it into y equals 4 minus x squared. So we get 4 minus 1, which is 3. So how many answers were there here? 2. The solutions are 3 comma negative 5 and negative 1, 3. So these are the 2 points of intersection. Okay, so this is actually it's probably the first scenario. You got your parabola, except in this case the parabola is opening downward. Maybe the line has a negative slope, so it's similar to this, but still get 2 answers. Okay? Any questions on how we did that? Pretty easy, right? Okay.
Wait, one second.
Yep. Let's try, we're just going to do a few examples today, trying to cover as many different scenarios as possible. So here's another system. What kind of shape is this first equation? Circle. Here's the line. Maybe we have one answer, maybe we have two. Okay.
If you put words like what the like on the quiz or something, what it would say. You know what I mean?
Solve.
Yeah. Like,
It'll say solve the system of equations. No, I mean it's not. If you get a system of equations like this and it says to solve for x and y, I mean that's all it's going to say. It's not. It might give you a method. Like for some of the earlier problems, it might say, John, like use substitution here or use elimination, you know. But if it doesn't say anything, you can really solve them however you want. Okay. What can we do here?
okay. Did you get X or Y alone?
That's probably a good idea. So maybe get x alone. If I add 3y and then divide by 4, what's x?
3 over 4.
So 3/4 y or 3y over 4. Everybody good? Okay. Now we're going to plug it back into the first equation. So it's kind of like the first one, but let's see what happens. When I square x, what do we get?
9 over
9
16.
over 16 y squared plus another y squared equal to 25.
I think you just times everything by 6 to get so it's 6.
Multiply everything by
Yeah,
16?
to get it fraction.
Sure.
I mean, if you want.
So we get 9y squared plus 16y squared. And then 25 times 16 was at 400?
I got you. 400.
Okay. What can we do next?
Combine like terms.
Combine like terms. So we got 25y squared equals 400. Divide by 25, so y squared is 16. And now?
Y equals
Good.
Ooh, we snapped.
Very important that you remember,
The plus or minus.
yes, because if you don't, you might miss half of the answers. Okay? So we get y equals plus or minus 4. Yes?
Is it always plus or minus, or when it's an even?
Only if this is an even power. Yep.
Oh, yeah, you gotta remove
Yep, that's a good question. If this were cubic and we cube rooted it, it's, you know, positive or negative, depending on if this is positive or negative here. Okay? All right, so we do the same thing we did in the first problem. We do case by case. If y equals 4, which one should I plug it into here?
X equals 3 over 4, right?
What's that?
Now we got X alone.
Right here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Can you just plug it in?
Yeah.
Nice.
So x equals 3 over 4 times y, which is 4, so x is
12 over 4, which is 3.
3.
Yeah.
If y equals negative 4,
Which is negative 3.
3 over 4 times negative 4 is the same result, just negative.
Nice.
So the solutions are 3,
Plus
4, negative 3, negative 4.
Where'd you get those?
Where'd I get the answers? Y equals 4, x is 3. If y is negative 4, then x is negative 3. So we just put them together. Okay? Does that kind of make sense? All right, I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to give you guys one to try. So I'm going to show you a technique that will... Anybody still need this? Okay. I'm going to show you a technique that will help let's say we have 3 over x plus 2 over y equals 19 over 15. And 11 over x minus 4 over y equals 13 over 15.
Wait, is that the same thing? Oh, wait.
So here's a system. It looks kind of like a linear system, but the only difference is x and y are in the denominators here. So it's a little curveball here. But we can.
It's not linear?
It's not linear. It looks like it's a normal linear system, but it's not quite. Here's what we can do though. So here's a good technique that will make life a little easier. You see how we have 3 over x and 11 over x, right?
Yeah.
Let's pick a letter like A, and let's just make that 1 over x. And let's do B equal to 1 over y. And then what we'll do is kind of rewrite the equation with a's and b's, and then it should be a little nicer. If this is 3 over x, then what does that become? 3a, yeah. Because we just have 3 1 over x's, right? Plus, what? 2b equals 19 15. So, I mean, we have a fraction on the right, but at least the variables are not in the denominator anymore. And then the bottom equation becomes
11a.
Yep. Minus
4.
4b equals 13 15ths. Okay, so really from here on out, it's up to you. You can start eliminating if you want. If you don't like the fractions, you can multiply by 15 to make the equations even easier to deal with. So what do these become?
45a, 30 plus 30b plus 19. And then I got you. I'll do it in
165.
Wow, Mr. J, do it. 165. Great.
What is it, 70?
Yeah. 60.
Oh.
Get it together.
Yeah, see, if I would have done that, we would have
You can calculate 165.
Let's just, he doesn't do those
He's
easy
a
numbers.
straight numbers.
He's not a, all he does
Sorry,
is
guys. Okay.
use their numbers.
So is everybody good so far? Okay. What would be the easiest to eliminate here?
The top of everything.
Which variable?
B.
Yeah, the b's. What could I multiply the top equation by? Times 2. So that becomes 90a plus 60b equals 38. Add these up. 165 plus 90 is 255a equals, what's 13 plus 38?
No idea.
50.
51.
Gosh, I
did.
So if you divide by 255, 51 over 255 reduces to 1/5, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
It is 1/5. How'd you know?
Dang, Mr. G.
5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5.
There's a 1 there. How'd you do that?
Yeah, you
Just said it. Just don't question.
Okay, so we have A. Now we can plug it in. We have a whole bunch of options. Okay, here's what you can do. Guys, listen up. If you plug it in here, you're going to end up with fractions again, right? I'm going to go to this original one here, 45a, because do you guys see we're going to multiply it by 1/5? But that's not going to be a fraction anymore, right? So we're going to take this guy, plug it into here. So now we have 45 times a, which is 1/5, plus 30 times b equals 19. 45 times 1/5 is 9. We get 30b equals what? 10. So then b is 1/3.
How do you convert back to x and y? Or
We're going to go there. Hold on. This is a great question, so obviously you know what's coming. We have a, we have b, right?
yeah.
We're not quite done though, because we wanted to find x and y.
So isn't it just 3?
So now what was a originally? A was 1 over x, right? So plug in 1 over 5 for a.
5.
X has to be 5, right?
Is this
Does that make sense?
Sure.
If it's not easy to see, you could always cross multiply and set up an equation. What was b? B was 1 over y. B was 1/3. So y has to be 3. So the only solution we have here is 3 comma 5. Oh, shoot. Yep. Switch that up. Thanks.
I don't think it's 1. Not 1/3.
5, 3.
I was doing 1/3.
Oh, it's like 10 divided by 30.
All right. Are there any questions?
No, sir.
I like these problems.
I haven't, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different combinations of stuff you're going to see. This is just a few of them, but the same ideas hold. Why don't you guys go ahead and try this one, okay?
We will.
I hope it's not one of those fractions.
I hope it's not one like this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't like that one.
Let's say we have 2 over x squared minus 3 over y squared equals -6. 3 over x squared plus 4 over y squared equals 59.
Oh, it's a problem. Not a problem.
Take a few minutes, work this out.
A a big number?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so.
Is it
Like really small.
where is it?
No, I said you only thought if I got it right.
What? So you got it wrong.
No, no, no. I said we only said you only thought if I got it right. I never said I only you thought if I got it right. No, I get that. Oh no, wait, I didn't plug him back. So I still
If you got it or you think you're on the right track, keep working. I'm going to slowly start writing out my work up here so you can kind of check.
Alright, so far. So far. Hey, yeah, you are gonna get it right. You are gonna get it right. Because you're gonna move down. I said you know. You see how I'm at don't just wait now. Yeah.
-9.
So it's to be Oh yeah, I already got it wrong. So it's
Someone confirm that I'm doing this right? That's 118, right, when you double it?
Yeah, we had to.
So then if you subtract, what is that, negative 136?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't get
uh,
2008.
Oh, this is 8.
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's 8.
17.
Divide
Okay.
by 9.
So now, go back and find A. We have 2A minus B, which is, or 3B, which is 24, equals negative 6. 2A is going to be, is that 18?
Yep.
So A is 9. All right, so if A is equal to 9, A was 1 over x squared, right? So how do I solve for x here? Cross multiply. Okay. So 1 times 1 equals 9x squared. Divide by 9. So x is plus or minus 1/3. Everybody see that? Okay. If b is, what was it, 8?
Yeah.
So then we have 1 over y squared equals 8. Same idea. 1 equals 8 times y squared. Divide by 8. Square root both sides. You get plus or minus 1 over 2 root 2. Yeah, let's get rid of the radical. So multiply root 2 to the top and bottom. So this becomes 2 times 2. So here are your x values, here are your y values. Okay, so here we have to we have to be careful how we write our answers, because we got plus and minus, plus and minus. What does that mean? Well, let's take a look all the way back at the beginning, which was right here. Okay? If you plug in 1/3 into this equation or this equation, what do you get for the x part?
Oh, 6,
First, you're going to square it, right? So what do you get when you square a third?
1 9.
Positive 1/9. Same thing here, right? Well, what if you plug in negative 1/3? You get the same thing, right? So, and now kind of work with me here. So if you plug in 1/3 into this first equation and you move it around and you get y alone, what are you going to have to do in the end? You have to divide by stuff. What's the last thing you do, though, if it's y squared? You square root it. So when you plug in 1/3 and then you try to get y alone, you're going to square root it and get how many answers there? 2. So for 1/3, there's 2 answers. For negative 1/3, there's 2 more answers. Does that make sense? There's actually 4 answers for this. Because if you plug in 1/3, you could get regular root 2 over 4 or negative root 2 over 4. And then the same thing happens when you plug in negative 1/3. Okay, does everybody see why we have 4 answers there?
It's a circle, right?
Well, actually, these wouldn't be circles.
Would that be a hyperbola? Or hyperbole or parabola?
What would they be? If you multiply through by x squared and y squared, yeah, it's going to be a conic section. It might be a rotated ellipse
We're talking about
with another rotated ellipse.
It's like you get 2 parabolas that
Okay.
go from different